National Broadcasting Company. Now in its 7th decade of bringing you baseball's memories. Baseball's milestones. Baseball's majesty. And baseball's magical moments. NBC Sports proudly presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today, from the Astrodome, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers versus the Houston Astros. The Game of the Week is brought to you by the Miller Brewing Company, sole sponsor of the U.S. Olympic Training Centers. By Buick and your Buick dealers. Buick, where better really matters. By Metropolitan Life and affiliated companies. Get Met, it pays. And by new Kellogg's Pro Grain, Iron Man food.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ben Scully, along with Joe Garagiola. Welcome to the great indoors in Houston, the Houston Astrodome and the Dodgers and Astros. We'll be right back after this.
I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about Miller Lite. What a profound concept. It's got a third less calories than I probably thought it didn't even have. And it's less filling than it would have been if it was more filling than they didn't want it to be. Plus, it tastes as great as you expect, even if it had more calories than it didn't have in the first place. Think about that.
In other words, there's only one light beer, because if there wasn't, he wouldn't be saying there is. Right, Joe?
2 years later, he helped the Los Angeles Dodgers win the Western Division. Then there's Corey Snyder, who at Waterbury in 1985 was the Eastern League Player of the Year. Just one season before, he led the Cleveland Indians to their best record in 18 seasons. So visit a minor league ballpark and see tomorrow's stars today.
Hi, once again, everybody. As we go to the bottom of the first inning, the Dodgers leading the Astros 1-0. Billy Hatcher in the bottom of the first inning, a single to center, and Bill Doran, the batter, with the count 2 balls and 2 strikes. A sellout crowd. They have standing room only in the Astrodome today. And this big crowd was shocked in the top of the first inning. Mike Scott made his first pitch to the leadoff man, Dave Anderson, and Anderson hit a home run. Scott has given 3 home runs to leadoff batters this year, and Anderson joins Cal Daniels with that honor. And now the Astros trying to get the run back. There is Mike Scott, not wearing his glasses right now, sitting alongside of his catcher, Ron Reynolds. Meanwhile, Bill Doran, who has had a great series and hitting .263. Time called by Hatcher, so we could show you the home run if we have it racked up. We'll get it in for the Dave Anderson Marching and Chowder Society. Here is the first pitch of the game, and Andy drilled it. And for Dave Anderson, his first home run of the year, his 4th RBI, the 8th home run allowed by Mike Scott, and the 3rd by a leadoff man. So that broke the seal on this one. And now the Astros trying to come back. 2-2 to Bill Doran. Leary, a very, very deliberate pitcher.
It's very difficult to make good plays behind a pitcher like this. You can hear the crowd reacting.
Hatcher goes, waved at and missed, but the throw on a bounce.
Very difficult, especially for the catcher, because it's a timing thing, and Leary's been throwing over to first base. He's been holding the ball. He's been putting 2 or 3 different kind of moves on, and Sosha knew Hatcher was running because he ran on the pitch before that. Looks like he had a decent ball to handle, although it was a breaking ball, and he just threw it right into the ground.
Billy Hatcher is the number 3 man in the National League in stolen bases, and he's now stolen 25 out of 28. So Hatcher, a great leadoff man for Houston, as he was last year, and now trying to spearhead another attack. The Astros have really given the Dodgers a bad time. They've beaten them 4 out of 5 indoors. They've beaten them 8 out of 12 for the year. Craig Reynolds playing shortstop against right-handers, alternating with Dickie Thon. Tomorrow, Rick Honeycutt and Jim DeShae's 2 left-handers, so Thon figures to start. Reynolds has hit in 7 out of 8 to get his average up close to 300. 1 ball and no strikes. 1-0 Dodgers first inning. If you combine 2 facts, you realize the tough task that Leary has. Fact number 1, the Astros have the best home record in the National League. Number 2, the Dodgers have the worst record in the National League on AstroTurf. You combine those together and you realize the task that Leary has in front of him. Plus Mike Scott in there. 2-1.
Leary has a couple different deliveries with men on. Sometimes he'll come set from the top. Other times he'll have his glove and his hands at the waist and go up and come back down. He's got a couple moves there. Wouldn't be surprised to see a balk get called on him today.
Both Tim Leary and Mike Scott raised in the New York Mets organization. Pickoff play, but Hatcher just got back.
He draws a lot of throws, Hatcher. He's a very adventurous base runner. He gets a good lead, and he can almost hurt him get back there. Just a peak of daylight. But that was a good move by the Dodgers. That usually cuts the lead down, but not on Hatcher.
Phil Garner is playing third base for the Dodgers, having been with the Houston Astros since 1981 and traded over to them yesterday. Fly ball to right. Marshall has a play. Hatcher's going to tag. The catch, and Hatcher will go to third and make it easily. So Hatcher with a single, stole second, and 2 outs later he's at third, and the batter will be Glenn Davis. That's Phil Garner, number 20, who has played for the Oakland A's, then the Pittsburgh Pirates, and then here in Houston since 1981. And Garner, going from one locker room to the other, put on a Dodger uniform for the first time last night, and now starting against his old mates, and he was well liked here in Houston. Well, he should have been. When you were traded, did you ever have that experience going from one locker room to the other?
When I went to the Cubs, we were in Pittsburgh. It was a troop movement. 7 Cubs for 9 Pirates.
Oh, my gosh. All one. And team buses.
The pickup truck got in left field, and we just went over. We went to... In fact, it was funny because Audrey went out shopping, and she thought I was a Pirate, and when she turns on the radio coming out of the store, I'm a Cub. She thought that Rosie Roosevelt and little son got it to him.
Breaking ball is low. The worst deal I ever heard of, going from clubhouse to clubhouse. The Dodgers had an outfielder named Cal Abrams back in Brooklyn. Before the first game of a doubleheader, for some reason, he got all over manager Luke Sewell of Cincinnati. And Charlie Dressen kept saying, yeah, stay on him, Cal, stay on him. So Cal Abrams was eating Luke Sewell to pieces. And when the first game was over, they went back in the clubhouse. Dressen went over and said, Cal, you remember the Cincinnati Reds? Oh. And he had to go in the locker room and say, hi, Mr. Sewell, I'm your new outfielder. And I mean, he ate him alive all day. 2-1. Fouled away, 2-2.
That's terrible.
Isn't that awful?
Guy.
Yep. Glenn Davis hitting .297. You might remember the interesting story. Glenn Davis, product of a broken home, raised by another family named Davis, so that his stepbrother is Storm Davis, now pitching for San Diego. They faced each other for the first time this year. Earlier, Davis walked him the first time and hit him the next time. Chopper up along first, foul ball, and the count remains 2-2. Davis, who has some sock, he has 12 home runs. Last year he hit 31. The last time the Astros had a hitter of that caliber, Jimmy Wynn, hit 33. 2-2. Little roller the other way.
Who, by the way, is in the ballpark, Jimmy Wynn. He was in the old-timers game, and he pumped one out there pretty good. Jimmy was coaching down at, I think, Southern University, and Not there anymore, but he was here for the old timers.
Was he chewing on a toothpick?
No, he was not. The toy cannon.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Davis trying to pick up Hatcher. 1-0 Dodgers. First inning. Red Sox took a while, beat the Yankees 9-4. And that does it for Davis. That's the second strikeout for Tim Leary. A man left, and at the end of an inning, 1-0 Dodgers.
Chocolate is scrumptious when it crunches. That's why I love Nestle Crunch. That's why I love Nestle Crunch.
A leading consumer magazine has just cleared the air. Of all oil filters tested, the new Fram Wear Guard was rated best. Fram, you can pay a little now or a lot later.
Take good care of your car, but forget your brakes. Might as well do this. Bendix brakes pass tougher tests than any law requires, so think about Bendix.
1-0 on a leadoff home run by Dave Anderson. And Mike Marshall, Mike Scioscia, and Franklin Stubbs coming up. The story of Mike Scott is an incredible one. In fact, if you think of 2 dates for Mike Scott, it would somewhat tell the story. Mike was born on April the 26th. There are 4 pitchers born on the 26th of April who have pitched no-hitters. Ray Caldwell, Virgil Trucks, Sal Magley, and Mike Scott. And his baseball birthday would be May the 17th last year. Got him. Second strikeout. On May the 17th last year, Mike Scott had a record of 3-2, and he made a start against the Cubs. And from that day on, he became one of the great pitchers in the league.
Here's the pitch that got Mike Marshall. This could be that split finger fastball they constantly question. You just see it go straight down. It's a tough pitch. I mean, everybody has described it in many different ways. In fact, Gary Carter calls it a cross-seam cut slider screwball.
Oh, got it. Ball 1 to Mike Scioscia. Scotty leading the National League in strikeouts. Struck out 14 Reds this year. One ball and no strikes. In looking back over Scott, 16 times since May 17th, 16 times since that date, he has struck out 10 or more in a game. This year, he's already had a 1-hitter, a 2-hitter, and a 3-hitter.
That's why his split finger fastball is so effective. That pitch right there was a good fastball. And when he gets ahead, he'll throw that split finger thing, and he throws it hard, especially ahead, and she really does some tricks. Look for it here. Fastball.
Now that's 3 consecutive strikeouts for Mike Scott. And they'll begin hanging the K's here. Here's another look at it. It's 119 strikeouts in 103 innings.
He just comes right at Scioscia. He was going right there, right down the middle with something on it. Looked like it had a little bit of a tail. Might have cut it a bit, but it had good speed.
Well, he's working now on Franklin Stubbs, who is a strikeout hitter. We bring up that point because last year, Mike Scott struck out the side 25 times. In fact, he became the 11th national pitcher to strike out 4 in an inning. 1-1. But with all of his strikeouts, the thing that is truly remarkable is the ratio of strikeouts to walks. It's close to 4-1. Ball 2, 2-1.
He's around that plate, and that's a good pitcher, because what that does is when they're not able to connect, the hitter will widen his strike zone. Anytime he widens the strike zone, helps you.
2-1. Ground ball to the right side. Easy play for Bill Doran, and the second inning is in the books. Dodgers go 1-2-3 at the end of an inning and a half. The Dodgers won, the Astros nothing.
It was clear even after the verdict, the Getz case will remain a high emotion event in New York City.
If I had more beers to have your own better week. My problem was I ran out of bullets, and I was gonna gouge one of the guy's eyes out with my keys afterwards.
The Astro lineup, and Tim Leary will be working on Kevin Bass, Jose Cruz, and Chuck Jackson. 1-0 Dodgers in the second inning. Kevin Bass drove in the winning run in the 11th inning last night with a fly ball to right field. A switch hitter. Kevin batting .276. He's hitting 8 out of 10. Fouled away.
If you're the kind of a guy who counts pitches, Leary has made 25 pitches. He made 23 pitches in the first inning, but more significant, I think, Vinny threw to first base 10 times.
He sure makes a lot of moves. Last night, Oral Hershiser got up around the 150 pitch mark before they finally had to come and get him.
Here in Houston, they have that governor on Nolan Ryan, 110 pitches. I wonder where they come up with those. I guess it's an average of, or I just wonder.
But it's working for him. A drive to right, Marshall right there. So Bass hit it on the screws, but right at Mike Marshall, one away. For Tim Leary, a pattern has developed, and it is not a pattern he likes. He's pitching backwards. He's pitching uphill. He has had a 2-ball, no-strike count on 5 consecutive batters. That's a tough way to pitch.
You don't stick around long.
Breaking ball for a strike, and a good one. Jose Cruz coming up 40. Hit a home run last night. He has been a great performer for the Astros since coming over here. Cruz will be 40 in August.
Is it just me, Vin, but there are more Houston players that they say underrated. Now, Cruz has been said he's been underrated for a long, long time.
I guess you're underrated if you don't have a lot of writers, a lot of newspapers covering the ball club.
He's been a solid player for a long time.
And he's been with Houston since '75, coming over from St. Louis, and has the right to be the most frustrated ball player now playing in the big leagues. Jose Cruz facing Tim Leary.
Leary keeps that head right at the target. You know, he doesn't deviate at all.
And he has a count of 2-2. Only Ernie Banks has played more games without getting into a World Series than Jose Cruz. And Cruz came awfully close last year. The only other active player to play more games in the outfield than Jose, Reggie Jackson, is not so active these days. 3-2. Fouled away. June the 1st, Jose Cruz scored the 1,000th run of his career.
Just listening to you read that almost says it all. You know, here's a guy been around a long time, doing a lot of great things, and about as famous as Whistler's father.
Yeah, that's right. 3-2 to Jose. Breaking ball, fouled again, off speed.
Make no mistake, very strong. You look at those arms and pretty good ads.
He's had over 15 years in the big leagues. Fastball, he goes the other way, right at Guerrero, who was fighting it. He lost that ball in the lights, and at the last moment picked it off. It's like a double strand of pearls.
Ball's on the outside part of the plate. He just went with it, hit it hard. You can see Guerrero fighting it right there, and that's the married man stance when you catch him like that. Don't get hurt.
Instead of a light tower here in the Astrodome, as we said, it looks like a double choker of pearls up there. And the ball will get right up into one of those two strands of lights, and you're in a lot of trouble. there they are, and that's what Guerrero was contending with on that drive. 0-1.
And even those panes of glass, they have painted them, they've darkened them, but it is tough to see down there. I'll tell you it is.
The Astrodome is where AstroTurf really evolved, because when they opened up the Astrodome, they tried to have grass here. Pitch fouled away. In order to let the light in for the grass to grow, the players couldn't play. When they made the roof translucent, taking the glare out, the grass couldn't grow, so they had to come up with something, and AstroTurf was the alternative. Little roller foul.
I snicker, Vin, because when I see those panes of glass, I think of Al Spangler when he was playing here. He said when you got in a slump with the Astros in those days, you didn't take extra hitting. They made you wash the windows.
April the 9th, 1965. That's when the Astrodome was unveiled. Chopper to Garner, and it doesn't come up for him. Garner knew he was going to be caught in between hops, and he opted to charge it, and it didn't come up. So for a former Astro, the first play is a little embarrassing.
Watch him now. He knows he's got to get that short hop, and it hits on the dirt and doesn't come up. If it stays on the artificial surface, it comes up, but he just didn't come up for him, and the first play, and he says, of all things, that's got to happen to me.
An error charged to Phil Garner in his debut as a Dodger. So with 2 out, Jackson at first, and Ron Reynolds, another former product of the New York Mets, at the plate. Garner, by the way, has a pretty good glove. That's only the 3rd error he's made this year. We'd like to remind our viewers we'll be selecting the NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game at the conclusion of the ball game. It's 1-0 Dodgers, 2nd inning. Fouled away, out of play. Particularly for the Astros, they got some good news. Atlanta defeated Cincinnati 8-6. If the Astros win today, they would be a half a game out of first place. The Braves beating Cincinnati are 2.5 out. And a tip-off on the Reds situation last night. Outfielder Paul O'Neill pitched the last 2 innings for Cincinnati. 0-1 to Ron Reynolds. 1-1. Waiting his turn on deck, Mike Scott. Interesting, too, that we see Mike Scott against the Dodgers. You may remember that Mike Scott was traded to the Astros from the Mets for outfielder Danny Heap, who is now in San Antonio getting ready to join the Dodgers.
Vin, he's putting 2 different moves on there, and it's a bit confusing to the base runner when he comes to his set position.
I'm surprised they let him come from there. Right. Now he's going to set again.
Now he'll come. Now he threw from there. Now the other move that he makes is the one we were talking about, where he comes to his belt and then goes up. I agree with you. He's got 2 definite moves. You just saw the one. Keep watching him, and you'll see the different ones.
Dana DeMuth, the plate umpire. Bob Engel at first. Steve Ripley at second. Paul Runge at third. And they are watching him. Interesting. We've had 8 umpires in this series. We have a different quartet of umpires Thursday night, and then they moved on, and this group came in and started to work last night. There goes the runner on a pop fly back a third down the line. Garner in the bullpen and makes the catch for the out. And he knew the territory. No runs, no hits, a man left on the error. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
Great selection of Honda dealers now. Fast.
Celebrating our 25th season of Cardinals baseball, this is Channel 5, St. Louis.
Phil Garner will lead it off in the 3rd inning, followed by Tim Leary and then Dave Anderson.
Then I know the Dodgers haven't had a whole lot to smile about. They were pretty happy before the game, though, with what Albuquerque's doing. Last year they were last in the Pacific Coast League, both the first and the second half of the season. Now they're in first place. They won it. And then Bakersfield in the California League in first place. So Fred Clare and the guys were smiling at least.
Apparently some of the youngsters playing well. There's a ball in the hole. Reynolds throw, nipping Garner. Fine play by Craig Reynolds. So Garner almost answered back on the error, but Reynolds took a hit away from him.
That's one of those plays that Concepcion of Cincinnati would probably bounce that ball to pick up the speed, but not Reynolds. He threw it all away and made a fine play.
Hal Lanier has gotten a great deal out of Craig Reynolds and Dickie Thon, alternating him at shortstop. And Reynolds, of course, an all-star in his own right. You remember when he was over in the American League, he was an all-star representing Seattle. So Lanier doesn't lose anything. And the same thing at third base. He'll alternate Denny Walling with the rookie Chuck Jackson. Fouled away. Similar to the way Davey Johnson alternated Tim Tuffle and Wally Backman, Len Dykstra and Mookie Wilson. And that's the kid who is now here as a fixture along with Walling now that Phil Garner has been sent to the Dodgers. 0-1. No balls and 2 strikes to Tim Leary. Of course, coming over from the American League, he didn't swing a bat over there last year when he won 12 for Milwaukee.
He put a little bit extra on that one.
1-2. You're talking about Craig Reynolds alternating with Dickie Thon. Thon not getting an opportunity to celebrate his birthday. Dickie 29 years old today. High drive into left field, hooking in the corner, foul.
He had a pretty good rip at a high fastball and almost jerked one out of here. Hey, while I got a chance, Vin, and you talked about a birthday, guess who's going to be 84 years young on Monday?
I happen to know, too. One of my all-time favorites, and as a youngster in New York sitting in the bleachers in the old Polo Grounds, I used to worship him. You're talking about the King.
King Carl Hubble, that's right, who probably is watching this game in Mesa right now. So happy birthday, Carl.
From both of us. And all of us who saw you pitch. 2 down here in the third inning, and Dave Anderson coming up. Anderson shook up the house. Not to mention what he did to Mike Scott. He hit the first pitch of the day in the seats in left field for his first home run. And that's the difference. 1-0 Dodgers, top of the third. Mariano Duncan is on the disabled list, so Dave Anderson is going to have to play just about every day. Mariano was spiked on a legitimate slide by Bill Doran. Actually, Duncan stuck his knee down to block the bag, and Doran just slid into it and cut his leg open above the left knee. 5 stitches. Mariano has a special cast on the leg, and he'll be out for the minimum 15 days. Another Dodger on the disabled list underwent foot surgery the other day, Len Matuzik, who is recuperating in Los Angeles. Easy inning again for Mike Scott. After the home run, he's retired 9 in a row. At the end of 2 1/2, 1-0 Dodgers.
Serving Miller Lite. Nobody comes here anymore. It's too crowded.
In plain English, there's only one light beer, Miller Lite.
Final score, the Yankees tied for first, and having won 5 straight, were tripped up by Boston 9-4. The Yankees would have fallen out of first place, except for the fact that Milwaukee knocked off Toronto. Atlanta defeating Cincinnati 8-6, so the Braves are 2.5 games out of first place. Fouled away, 0-1.
Another big fight, too.
And how? Bill Gullickson. There were a lot of home runs in that game. Cleveland leading Seattle 6-0 in the 6th inning. Seattle only 4 behind Minnesota. Kind of a surprise. Strike, 0-2. And there's the score where Milwaukee beat Toronto 3-2. So the Yankees and Toronto lose, and they remain tied for first place. The Tigers have a chance to pick up ground. They're at Baltimore. And that takes care of Mike Scott.
That's the second pitch that Mike Scioscia has moved out way outside, even out from behind home plate to get the curveball. They're able to get Glenn Davis in the first inning, and it's way outside. Look where he gets, out of the strike zone, and he just cannot reach it. Good pitch.
Scioscia now handling 3 strikeouts from Leary, and here's a drive to left, way out and gone. That's as many home runs as he had all last year, a half a dozen. And the ball game all evened up 1-1. So Dave Anderson and Billy Hatcher homer, and we're in the 3rd inning, all tied. Here's Bill Doran, struck out in the 1st inning.
Somebody will look at the box score and say, 2 leadoff men hit home runs. That ball's got to be juiced up.
And in the Astrodome.
That's right, with the air conditioning blowing in.
Right. 0-1. For the Astros, they don't homer that much. They've only hit 23 home runs at home. The Dodgers hit a lot of home runs on the road. Dodgers have hit 39 home runs on the road. 1 ball and 1 strike. Ground ball to Stubbs. He'll do it himself. 2 down. When the season opened, the Dodgers and the Astros had already played each other 5 exhibition games. They're not too far apart in Florida. This is the 13th game in the regular season. So if they don't know each other, no team has knowledge of the other.
The question is, how much good does that do you?
That's right. How do you apply it? What was that Mark Twain line about? If a cat sits on a hot stove, it will never sit on another hot stove, but it also won't sit on a cold stove. So it just depends on how you apply the knowledge. 4-1. Craig Reynolds flied to right. Reynolds had a key base hit last night to upend Hershiser. Craig hitting .292. Drive to left, Guerrero right there. So Leary gives up a run to Hatcher on the home run. Well, as a lead into our coverage of the summer games in '88, we're pleased to bring you the first of many special Olympic moments.
An Olympic moment brought to you by the Prudential, offering a full range of insurance and other financial services. The Prudential.
Montreal, 1976. America's Bruce Jenner has an insurmountable lead in the Olympic decathlon. In the 10th and final event, he runs the fastest 1,500 meters of his career and breaks the decathlon world record. Bruce Jenner, one of the greatest athletes in Olympic history.
Soar beyond your expectations. Today, the Prudential can show you a new world of financial opportunities. Look to the Rock for stocks and bonds, mutual funds. Feel its strength in CDs, insurance, and mortgages. With the right choices, the right guidance, you can move mountains. The Prudential, your rock in financial services.
An American tradition continues. It was indeed baseball like it ought to be, as 2 great teams kept America on the edge of their seats for 7 wonderful days. Next Saturday, the world champion New York Mets take on the Phillies, or the Astros face the Giants. The tradition is here. The memories are waiting.
We will work Old-timers Day here in the Astrodome, and one of the members of the illustrious cast that was brought before this sellout crowd, Joe Garagiola, or as we would say, Joe Garagiola.
Hopefully, he will make it through the first inning. Catching
Now,
will be
I've heard
Joe
of pitchers
Garagiola.
who come in to pitch to one batter, but to show you in this age of specialization, he caught one batter. And then, this is the first time in history.
Right, you've seen history.
A papal dispensation was brought into a big league game, and 4 strikes and you're out.
That was the 3rd strike. Ramos was pitching. He threw a slow curveball, and I was way out in front, and so I got strike 4.
And then you got a base hit.
Drilled it.
It shows you if you give the good player that little extra, he'll cash it in. Nothing like 4 strikes. Way to go, Joe.
I want to tell you, though, man, I was catching that J.R. Richard, and I left. He was throwing too hard.
Oh, I bet, huh? And he was bigger than I've ever seen him. And he was awesome when he played.
So he looked like 2 guys scotch taped together standing on that mound.
Whoa. Well, I had read in the paper that his weight is somewhere close to 300 pounds. Shot into right center for Sachs. Base hit. We got a good one here. 1-1 tie. One thing about Mike Scott, and you could say it's a chink in his armor, but the key is to get on base. He is pretty easy to run against. Scott does not have a particularly good move.
That was the first time that the Dodgers had asked to look at the ball. It had been moving along smoothly, and the ball was okay, and you just saw Scott motion to Reynolds, yes, he would throw it to him in case it's hit back to him.
Here's John Shelby, and we'll watch Sachs. Bad ball, 0-1. To further and complete the thought on Mike Scott, opponents have stolen 13 bases on him. No opponent has been caught stealing against him this year. Last year, 41 out of 51. So that's one thing he doesn't do well. Pop fly into left center. Cruz coming in and calling. Steve Sachs has stolen 12. He leads the Dodger base stealers, but the Dodgers are not the Dodgers of old. They are not stealing bases. They only have 44 stolen bases. But if Sachs is ever going to steal, it will be against Scott for a team that is last in the National League in what once was a trademark. The lack of running by the Dodgers is one of many reasons why they have the poorest record on AstroTurf. 4 wins and 14 losses. But of course you don't run too much when you have a power hitter like Guerrero coming up. 1-1 in the 4th. Guerrero struck out in the first inning. There goes Sachs. Ball 1, and the throw stolen it. So that just further strengthens the argument about the one severe weakness in Mike Scott's delivery. The opponents are 14 for 14 in stealing bases against him. There isn't a thing Ron Reynolds can do about it.
Reynolds had a good ball to handle. It was a perfect pitch to handle for a catcher. It was a high fastball. He shifted into it well. But it's the release time of Mike Scott that really cost him and cost him dearly. It's a very slow release he has to the plate, giving that base runner an extra jump.
1-0 the count to Pedro Guerrero. Ball 2.
Might just add too, Vin, that how baseball has changed in many ways. With Guerrero up there, you wouldn't expect him to be running. One swing of the bat, you'd pick 2 runs up, but it doesn't make any difference. Forget strategy. The managers now, they let guys run on their own, or they let them pick pitches, and they're liable to go at any time.
2-0 the count to Guerrero. He's hitting if he likes the location. Guerrero's hitting almost 400 on AstroTurf, and that really doesn't make much sense. He is basically somewhat of an uppercutter who hits a lot of balls in the air. He leads the club in home runs with 15. Two balls, 1 strike to Guerrero. Sachs at second, 1 out in the 4th. 1-1 tie. That's his problem, and he wants Dana Demuth to look at the ball again.
The reputation is just like another pitch, and you can see that Mike Scott is just used to it. They keep the ball in play, and it looked like a fastball, actually. I tell you, you hear so many things. Bob Brenly, the Giants, says that it just defies aerodynamics, whatever that means. If you can hit a rock, and if you can't, forget about it.
It was a bad swing by Guerrero, too. He tried to uppercut it.
He's liable to get the thing now, though.
Ground ball to the hole. Reynolds with a long throw got him. Sachs holding at second base. So that's two fine plays that Craig Reynolds has made deep in the hole, and the batter will be Mike Marshall, who struck out in the second inning. The other night, the Dodgers got into a brouhaha about Dave Smith, the relief pitcher. It got so bad that Jerry Crawford, the plate umpire, Thursday night, threw Ron Pernoski out of the game, the Dodgers pitching coach. The first time in 20 years Pernoski had ever been kicked out of a game. The Dodgers maintaining that the umpires were looking at the ball, but not at the right time. In other words, when a hitter swings and misses, and then the hitter says, look at the ball, that's not the time. What they want is to have the ball returned to the mound, let the pitcher rub it up, and then just before he pitches, say, hold it. Now we want to see the ball. So it's getting crazy.
It really is. The psychology of something like that is really funny on the bench.
1-1. Of course, there have been a lot of artists. Preacher Rowe, 30-some-odd years ago, when he finally hung it up to a national publication, he wrote an article. Yes, I did throw a spitter.
Oh, Gaylord Perry, I did a whole show with him. I mean, I remember when ABC was trying to, with Bobby Bragan, trying to find out, I just asked him, and he showed me where he did it. He put in a bill of his cap, under his socks, and showed you spots. But the psychology, in just a moment, I'll tell you, is really something.
Ball two.
You sit on the bench, and the guy comes back and says, I think he's throwing a spitter. The spitter, he's really throwing a spitter, and it goes down the bench like just wildfire, and then the guy goes up to hit, and he'll throw that spitter. He'll turn to the umpire and say, that was a spitter, and the umpire will say, that's right, strike two. And most good hitters will not worry about the pitch and just hit it, because the threat of the pitch is as good as another pitch.
Well, there's the rebirth of Mike Scott. 2-1. He struck out 300 batters last year. He was the 11th Major Leaguer, 4th National League pitcher, and only the 2nd National League right-hander to fan 300 in a season. The winner of the Cy Young Award. National League Pitcher of the Year Award from the Sporting News. In fact, Mike Scott leading the league in earned run average, trying to repeat. First time we would have a repeater in ERA lead since Tom Seaver did it in 1970 and 1971 in the National League. Ron Guidry, 1978 and 79 in the American League. Hit into left field, base hit. Sachs will score on the single by Marshall. Marshall is the one Dodger who has been hitting Astro pitching. Mike was hitting .370 in a dozen games against Houston, and he picks up an RBI. 2-1 in favor of the Dodgers, and the batter will be Mike Scioscia. Scioscia struck out. He was on the disabled list with a broken finger, and he has not had a hit since he has come back. And he's not going to have one now. So the Dodgers get 1 run, 2 hits. The key to the inning was the stolen base, the one weakness in Scott's delivery. 2-1 Dodgers.
The Tandy 1000EX, PC compatible for making the grade, staying on budget, working on time, playing overtime. Quality manufactured in America. Only $5.99, only at Radio Shack.
was cooking on Kingsford, showing major league form, but the minor league charcoal was stuck on warm. Finally, old Lefty threw down his hat and said, when you're hot, you're hot. When you're not, you're not. I take a Kingsford view about barbecue. When you're hot, you're hot. Kingsford charcoal is made with premium wood char. Kingsford burns hot when some others might not. Said, pay attention, son, let me show you how it's done. When you're hot, you're hot. He said, thanks a lot. When you're hot, you're hot.
This house is just lovely, but to the Stevens, it's so much more. They planned the future next to that fireplace, celebrated holidays full of laughter in this dining room, and whispered countless bedtime stories right here. This is where their heart is. This is their home. That's why only one paint was ever good enough. Benjamin Moore. They wouldn't settle for anything less. Would you?
When something means so much, see your Benjamin Moore dealer.
This is the anatomy of a whole new animal. It has fuel injection and the most powerful standard engine in half-ton pickups. New rear-wheel anti-lock braking system and galvanized steel rust protection, front, sides, and rear. The 88 full-size Chevy pickup. It's a whole new animal.
The heartbeat of America. That's the day Chevy truck.
Dad, is there any way you could send the money today?
To send money fast, come to Western Union. It'll get to any of our 9,000 locations usually in 15 minutes or less.
Keep in touch.
Western Union, the fastest way to send money.
In looking at the Western Division champions, you might notice the 81 Dodgers got into the World Series and beat the Yankees. The 84 San Diego Padres got into the World Series and lost to Detroit. All of the others went down in flames. Houston in 1980 lost in 5 games to the Phillies. And in 86, of course, lost in 6 games to the New York Mets. In the 4th inning, Glenn Davis, Kevin Bass, and Jose Cruz. 2-1 Dodgers. A little chin music. 1 ball and no strikes. Davis struck out in the 1st inning. In the first game of the series, he had a double, a single, a walk, and a home run. The Leary driving him off the plate.
That's a good pitch. Pitchers have to do that. They have to move their hitter back.
And a check swing on a breaking ball. Garner in a hurry. Juggles. Can't make the play. It'll be an infield single. You talk about a lively ball. So Garner, first you can't get a jump on a check swing. And then in his haste, he just couldn't corral it, and it's an infield single. It is 2-1 in favor of the Dodgers. Bottom of the 4th inning, and here's Kevin Bass, who lined out to right field in the 2nd inning. 2 outs in the 2nd were hard hit. Bass to right and Cruz to left. Ball 1. Kevin hitting .275. Glenn Davis with that infield single is now hit in 10 straight. That's a new career high for him. So there's Glenn representing the tying run at first base. He doesn't get involved in much running. He has stolen 2 and he's been caught once. Little nubber back towards Leary, and his only play is to Stubbs. So on 2 dribblers, the tying run is now at 2nd. 1 out, and Jose Cruz coming up. Jose, in his first at bat in the 2nd inning, showed why he has been around over 15 years and why he has been such a good ball player for Houston. He got a couple of good curveballs. He pulled one foul. And then on a fastball down and away, he just tried to drive a nail through it. He hit a line drive, but right at Pedro Guerrero in left field. Boy, when you can adjust like that, you're a hitter.
That you are. I mean, that was not an emergency swing. He just went with the pitch.
The outfield is shading him to left. There's a big gap in center and right center. 1 ball, no strikes. Boy, that's wide open spaces from center to right.
If you just looked at the defense, and the key guy to always check is the center fielder, you'd have to say they're going to make him hit the fastball away.
And yet the first pitch was in under the hands.
And he's setting up there again.
And again.
Now, you would think he'd be able to pull that ball, and if he pulls it in the right center field, he may have an inside the Parker.
We had an inside the park home run here last night. Bill Doran got it on a fly ball to left. Glenn Davis, the tying run at second base. 2-1 Dodgers, bottom of the 4th, 1 away. Off speed, got it in there for a strike. 2-1. Leary, they told me over in the American League, they had him clocked so high on the speed gun, only Roger Clemens threw harder, according to reports we heard. He just made a great off-speed pitch, and the count 2-1. There's the fastball. 3-1 to count to Jose. On deck, the right hand hitting Chuck Jackson.
Here's where you go to guess, and the only pitch he's been able to get over has been that slow curveball. As we look at Jackson, and what do you do now if you're the batter?
3-1 to Cruz. Anderson bird-dogging Davis at second. I don't think he really wanted him.
No, he threw the curveball, which I'm sure Cruz was looking for, because you're saying if he's going to throw me a strike, it won't be off the fastball. But with first base open, he's just soon pitch around Cruz. That's one of those intentional unintentionals.
And now he has 2 right-hand hitters back-to-back in Chuck Jackson and Ron Reynolds. So Lasorda, I think, would certainly concur with the way Leary pitched to Jose Cruz. Chuck Jackson playing third against right-handers. Denny Walling still has a strained lower back, although Hal Lanier said Walling could pinch hit. Ball 1. Socia telling Leary to stay within himself. The difference between these two teams in the standings really started the first week of the season. The Astros beat the Dodgers 3 in a row. The Astros went on to win 6 straight. The Dodgers went on to lose 5 straight. And that's been the gap since then. Ground ball hard. Sacks over to Anderson. To Stubbs. They get the double play. So pitching around Cruz, Leary's out of the inning. It's 2-1 Dodgers, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
For Father's Day, Burt Reynolds wants to have a baby, but he doesn't want to get married. Will Burt get more than he bargained for? Paternity, Sunday.
Great news, car buyers. Mazda takes the world-class value of the 626 and makes it greater than ever. Buy any model 626 now and choose $900 worth of options free from Mazda. Or make your best deal on a 626 and get $900 cash back from Mazda. But hurry. These incredible 626 offers end soon. After that, they'll be yesterday's news.
Now, choose $900 worth of free options or get $900 cash back.
With every Budweiser enjoyed, the promise endures. The promise of genuine quality. Quality you can taste. Clean, crisp, Beechwood aged Budweiser. Always certain, always satisfying. Because we know you wouldn't have it any other way. That's why this Bud's for you.
Even with all you do to keep your family healthy, you may be overlooking something that could cause illness. Roaches, now proven to carry at least 6 known diseases. Call Orkin, because Orkin has protected more homes from disease-carrying pests than anyone on Earth. That's why they're #1. And they'll make your home safe from pests or your money back. Call Orkin today. For pests, they just might be all the protection you'll ever need.
Maybe youth must be served, but not necessarily in Houston. And remember, Jose Cruz will be 40 August the 8th. Nolan Ryan, 21 years. And did you see his numbers? As we look at Franklin Stubbs, who pops it foul out of play. Ron Reynolds had no idea where that ball went. You believe Nolan Ryan, 21 years in the big leagues, 40 years of age, in 80-some-odd innings, Nolan Ryan has struck out 109, and he's not a trick pitcher, not knuckleballs, throwing as hard as ever.
He's a walking slump giver.
Oh, that to me is one of the more incredible things going on in the big leagues today. The performance of Nolan Ryan. 0-2 to Franklin Stubbs. Ryan, who doesn't pitch 9 innings very often, would be averaging over 11 strikeouts for 9 innings.
When they talk about speed, and he still got it after all those pitches.
That's really amazing.
You know, there was a writer talking to Bob Feller, who was here for the Old Timers game, and asking him, you know, the difference in him and Nolan Ryan. Feller said, get somebody who saw both of his pitch. They're still around.
Yeah, that's right. Wide to third is Jackson to get it. 1 away.
Then let me just get a plug in there for the old timers who play. I mean, a lot of the guys played. It was Pedro Ramos was here, and so was Larry Doby, and we've talked about Jim Wynn. And it helps a lot of the guys who are really taking some bad hops in life. And that's why all-star voting is important. Vote because Bat gets a piece of the action with every ballot, so stuff those ballot boxes.
Phil Garner had a big year last year, but it's the old story in baseball. As they say on Broadway, what have you done for me lately? And Garner, a veteran, who was another man who could very well sit back and talk about the old days. Garner is 38 years old. First started with Oakland in '73. He spent a little bit of time with that great Oakland team of '74. Joe Rudy and Reggie Jackson, Rollie Fingers, etc., etc. 0-2. Fouled away.
Boy, that dropped right off the table. Wasn't that something? That was not an optical illusion. That was that split finger fastball that you see.
I wonder now if they scuff the ball, will Garner now say, here's how they do it?
You mean, will he tell his teammate?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
The new team. Ground ball to third. And the young throws out the old at third base in Houston. 2 down.
Sure, it's going back to what you said before. What have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
I love you guys, but I got to beat you. Hey, I was on a ball club that when I got over to one club, he told me how they were stealing the signs. I got traded. Sure, I blew the whistle. I wasn't going to let him keep beating me.
Sure. 2 down in the 5th inning. 2-1 Dodgers. Tim Leary, the batter. Well, I guess in a sense it's David and Goliath here. Mike Scott and Tim Leary.
He's treating him like with a little bit of respect.
Two fellas who went to school in Los Angeles, or certainly in the area. Mike Scott went to Hawthorne High School and Pepperdine University out in Malibu. Leary went to UCLA, and Scott the winner strikes out Leary for the 2nd time, and at the end of 4 1/2, 2-1 Dodgers.
When the temperature drops below 30,
Remember the spark plug that's tested to start below zero. Champion, we go to ridiculous extremes to test the reliability of our spark plugs.
Sehen Sie sich bloß einmal diese rohe Kraft. Der Mann ist wie eine menschliche Kanone. Er explodiert.
Every major government is spending millions getting ready for next year's Olympics. Except one. In America, Olympians don't depend on the government. They depend on you. Through July 4th, buy Miller High Life or Light Beer where you see this special refund offer and help Miller support the U.S. Olympic Training Centers, where Olympians are made the American way.
Listen to the sound of a closer, smoother shave. Williams Electric Shave sets up my beer, so my shaver shaves closer, and I get a smoother shave. Listen to Williams Electric Shave. The sound of a closer, smoother shave.
Fancy perfuming aftershave. It's got to be a quarterback's locker. Real guys who get mud on their uniforms use rugged, honest stuff. Ice Blue Aqua Velva.
There's something about today's Aqua Velva, man.
So you still think linemen are dumb?
Ironman triathlete Mark Allen. Kellogg's Pro Grain. Ironman food. Power pack with wheat, corn, oats. Thiamine, niacin, riboflavin. Vitamins A, C, B6, B12, and iron. Honey toasted for great taste. New Kellogg's Pro Grain cereal. Ironman food.
Well, if you think traveling is a lot of fun, spend a couple of minutes talking to Hal Lanier. Let him tell you about a recent trip to St. Louis, where he and his wife made the trip. They went to the ballpark. When they came back to the hotel room, they had been robbed. All the clothing, suitcases, luggage, jewelry. Just great. I think there's going to be a new job in baseball, and it'll be a guy riding shotgun. He will sit in the hallway guarding empty rooms. Here's the old Razorback, Suey Piz, pride of the University of Arkansas, Ron Reynolds. 0-1 to Ron. He was on that fine 79 Arkansas baseball team. And promptly bangs it to right, base hit. That's the fourth hit for the Astros. It also means 3 of the 5 innings, a leadoff man has gotten aboard against Leary.
He just punched it right into right field, didn't try to hit it hard, and he stroked it. He's on, and now Stubbs wants to talk to Leary as to who's covering and set up some kind of a defense here.
Mike Scott struck out in the 3rd inning, and of course the Dodgers are looking bunt. Scotty is an excellent bunter. He leads the Astros with 5. So that's something else he does pretty well. Dodgers 2, Astros 1 in the 5th, and the bunt is down. Stubbs is going to go to first, and I'm sure Socia talked him out of it.
And it was a good move to talk him out of it, because I don't think he would have been able to get Reynolds. Scott really deadened that ball well. It went right to Stubbs. That's very hard in front of home plate, especially hard. He hits on the dirt, but he's able to deaden it right there. I mean, just perfect form. Had that top hand there. Stubbs was ready to fire, but Socia, as you said, Ben, talked him out of it. That's the difference between a holler guy and a take charge guy. That's take charge. A holler guy gets lockjaw in a play like that.
So here's Billy Hatcher, singled and homered, hitting .315. 4-1.
I used to get so mad. You know, you'd be looking for help, and this so-called holler guy got all the publicity. You'd get lockjaw, and then as soon as you made the play, you got an out, and you got a $1 million scoreboard, tells you how many outs. He'll holler, one away, one away. Who needs it?
Yeah, right. Thanks. He was fooled, a little hungry on that one. It must have looked like a basketball coming up. Billy's eyes really opened as he ripped. He's got a single, a stolen base, and a home run.
Get that high curveball. They can't stop.
Tying run, Ron Reynolds at second. 1 out in the 5th inning. Tim Leary trying to beat the Astros, and that's tough, particularly in the Astrodome. Dodgers have won 1 of 5 here.
Jackson Socia. He was directly behind home plate, waited and waited until he was sure that the pitch was going to be delivered momentarily, and then he moved over because he didn't want Hatcher sneaking a peek. Look where he is. Really setting it up well.
And pretty good control on Leary's part.
Oh, very much so.
Drill that glove with the breaking ball.
It's obvious that they talked pretty much before the game, and Leary wants him to set up out there because it's a big help, and he's hitting it.
By the way, with our lenses, we can show you the back of Socia's mitt. You will see that he has two fingers, both amply protected, sticking out of the mitt. There's a hopper to Anderson. He will hold his runner and take care of Hatcher. He almost threw it away. There you can see the middle finger that was broken when he tried to bunt has that orange plastic shield, and the other finger is taped to give him further support.
And he'll catch that ball in the webbing so the fingers never do really take any of the impact. You can see where he'll just right there is a good look at it.
And how?
And then he catches that ball in that webbing and the fingers feel nothing.
How did he break it? In batting practice. You know how you get into the cage and you say, I'll bunt 2 and then I'll swing 3 or whatever. The first bunt that he was going to lay down, he stuck a finger in it. Bill Doran struck out, grounded out. He has a 6-game hitting streak, and twice last night he had to knock Socia flat on his numbers at home plate to score. Once squeezing in on a home run inside the park, and then scoring the winning run on a throw from right field. Doran's tough.
Didn't you love his quote, though? He said, I wasn't worried about running and making it. I was worried about what was going to be at the end of my run.
Socia.
The human dead end.
2 balls, no strikes. Bill Doran is 175 pounds and 6 feet. Mike Socia, the catcher, is listed at 220. So he's given away 50 pounds.
Plus all that equipment, because a guy like Socia and Doran, you give Doran a Schinberger sandwich.
2-1 to Bill. Reynolds a tying run at second base. Fastball, 2-2. So deuces wild on Doran. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. The tying run at second. Dodgers leading 2-1 in the 5th. Doran and Hatcher have played in every game so far this year. And Doran is blown away here in the 5th inning. So Tim Leary picks up his 4th strikeout, and at the end of 5, 2-1 Dodgers. Here's another edition of Characters of the Game.
Characters of the Game, brought to you by A&W Root Beer. Sit back and pour yourself a frosty one. Holy cow, it's the maestro of Wrigley Field. Cubs broadcaster Harry Carey's unique style has made him one of baseball's most treasured folk heroes.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win! There's a drive in the left field way back near the wall. It might be! It could be! Holy cow!
If there's any degree of popularity I have, it's maybe the realization on the part of the fan on the stand that I'm one of him.
Harry Carey, he might be, he could be, he is a one-of-a-kind character of the game.
Now that I'm a big TV personality and living in Hollywood, it's important that I improve my ability to party. So I got myself this hot tub and invited over some close friends I've known for hours. And instead of the usual boring soft drinks, I'm serving A&W root beer. A&W is rich and creamy, and it has that frosty mug taste. There's nothing like a hot tub, a cold frosty one, and some properly prepared crustacean. Pour yourself an A&W, regular or diet.
Bottom of the 6th inning last night. Dodgers leading 2-1. Bill Doran hitting a fly ball against Hershiser. Guerrero comes up empty, trying to backhand it. Dave Anderson, the Dodgers shortstop, goes to the wall to retrieve. Mickey Hatcher, the relay to the plate, and Doran blocked by Socia, who let the throw get away. Mike had him out. Now the winning run. Marshall's throw to the plate. Look at Socia on his knees. Doran lowers the boom, and the throw goes to the backstop. That's Bill Doran. 6 feet, 175 pounds of tough.
Well, that second one, he just went right after Socia.
And Socia was a sitting duck or kneeling duck. And I'm surprised he would put himself in such a spot. I mean, that's more than courageous.
What he did, actually, and he gets away with it, is it was illegal because he was blocking the plate before he had the ball. The other one, you could see at the end of our tape there where he put his hands on his head because he knew he had the out, and then when he tried to show it to the umpire, he dropped it.
Chopper to third. Chuck Jackson. One away. Boy, we got a dandy here. It is 2-1 Dodgers. Top of the 6th, 1 out. Leadoff men, Dave Anderson and Billy Hatcher have hit home runs, and the difference in the game, sacked single, stole second, and a 2-out single by Mike Marshall to give the Dodgers the lead.
Been in 5 innings. Scott has made 60 pitches, 43 strikes.
Wow.
17 balls. He struck out 5, and 12 of 18 first pitches for strikes. That's the difference.
And Tim Leary has struck out 4 to keep pace, and here comes another examination. Now that time, the Dodgers did what they talked about the other night. They let Scott rub up the ball and then asked to look at it, and Scott looked over, and Guerrero was hollering out of the Dodger dugout. Scott looked over as if to say, okay, are you satisfied?
That's the first time he's reacted, and that's not good.
Fouled away, and Guerrero took umbrage, and he's pacing up and down in the Dodger dugout, and he apparently hollered something out to Scott. So Scotty has the Dodgers thinking, which is probably part of his game. There's Guerrero now standing next to Hatcher. Foul ball. 0-2.
I imagine it takes just a little bit of extra as far as discipline is concerned as we look at Guerrero, who continues to kind of jaw there on the part of Scott to discipline not to react to it because they ask for it so often.
1 ball, 2 strikes.
They talk about he's got sandpaper. In fact, Leon Durham said he found a piece of sandpaper on a mound. He stuffs it that way. All kinds of things.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Popped it in the air, and it'll be the second baseman, Bill Doran. Dodgers leading 2-1, top of the 6th inning, and John Shelby coming out. Shelby has popped up and flied to left. 0 for 2. A switch hitter who is very vulnerable to the strikeout as a left-handed batter. He has struck out 20 times as a switch hitter, and 18 of the 20 from this side of the plate. John came to the Dodgers in the deal that sent Tom Niedencure to Baltimore, and he has played very well. Shelby has 7 home runs. Guerrero waiting on deck. And he drives it to right. Going back is Kevin Bass. So the Dodgers out in order, 7 in a row retired by Scott, and it remains 2-1 Dodgers.
In 1973, a small bar served the first light beer. The response was unanimous.
Tastes great.
Here was a beer with its own special brewing process.
Less filling.
It's brewed to be light with only the finest quality ingredients.
Tastes great.
Less filling.
Today there are lots of lights around, but none are brewed like Miller Lite, and none can match the taste.
Tastes great! Tastes great! Hey, Doll, sounds like that kind of place.
There's only one light beer, Miller Lite.
Buy yourself a little freedom. Get yourself a great little car. See how it feels to have your own set of wheels. Buy a little freedom, buy a you-go. Go anywhere you want to, anytime you want. Just get up and go. See
Yugo, America's most affordable new cars.
Somehow there's got to be a cure for athlete's foot.
Hey, step up to the mic.
Mike?
Mycotin. This cures athlete's foot. It's got something the others don't. Myconazole. There's nothing more powerful.
Yes? You got something that cures athlete's foot?
Sure, step up to the mic.
Huh?
Mycotin. It cures athlete's foot.
Step up to the cure. Step up to the mic. Mycotin. Also new deodorant spray.
Darren Schoolboy Van Horn. This young boxer hits books and lands hooks. By day, he studies animals. At night, he becomes one. This tough kid shows signs of superstardom. Van Horn battles Luis Santana, a junior middleweight showdown. Live on NBC Sports World.
Final score, last place Cleveland upended Seattle 9-1. Seattle had won 5 straight. And Pittsburgh knocks off the Cubs, the Pirates last place in the East, defeating the Cubs, who began the day 5 games behind the Cardinals. Pirates 8, Cubs 2. It's 2-1 in favor of the Dodgers. Bottom of the 6th inning. Craig Reynolds, Glenn Davis, and Kevin Bass. Reynolds flied to right and lined out to left. Garner wide, but even with the bag at third. Slow breaking ball. Leary is consistently missing on the first and second pitches. Dangerous, but he's gotten this far, allowing just 1 run. The home run to Billy Hatcher. Fastball popped up. Good fastball. Reynolds jammed, didn't get around on it. Sacks. One away, and Glenn Davis coming out. Struck out, and on a check swing, had a leg single in the 4th inning to stretch his hitting streak to 10. Glenn hitting .308. A sellout crowd at the Astrodome. In fact, they were selling standing room only seats, we understand. And the good folks are here. In there.
You know, one of the good things to see, too, Vin, was to see Glenn Davis. Here he is, the star in the major leagues, with a bat, getting the old-timers like Feller and Dolby and all the guys to autograph it. That's neat.
2-1 to count. Dodgers 2 runs, 3 hits. Astros 1 run, 4 hits. We're in the 6th. Inside.
Socha's trying to steal that one.
3-1 to Davis. Davis, the home run hitter, with a dozen and 38 runs batted in. Breaking ball. They'll check. No swing, says Bob Engel. So a 1-out pass to Davis will bring up Kevin Bass. That's the 2nd walk given up by Tim Leary. Kevin Bass lined out to right and hit back to the box, and he's checking with Dennis Menke to see if they put a play on. One reason that Bass has to look for possible hit and run. He leads the Astros in grounding into double plays. He's done it 8 times, and as a switch hitter, 4 from either side of the plate. But he pops it foul, out of play, 0-1.
And I'll tell you, catchers need help. You saw Socha break late on that, and he got help from his bench.
And a little while ago, remember, Ron Reynolds had no idea.
You got to get help.
I don't know how catchers ever find the foul ball. I really don't.
Well, you really see it come off the bat. Even catching today's an old-timer. I surprised myself. I didn't see the ball that good, but I still saw it come off the bat. I wasn't blinking.
Sure, Joe.
I tell you the
one
truth,
ball,
man.
one strike. How does it Bill Cosby go in that routine? Right. 1-1 to Kevin.
Nice going, boy. Can really count on your friends.
1 out of the 6. 2-1 Dodgers. Glenn Davis at first. Fastball. High drive to right. Back goes Marshall to the wall. Gone. The Astros don't figure to wear you out with home runs, but they have hit 6 home runs against the Dodgers in 3 games in this series. 6.
That was a fastball up in his eyes. Take a look at it. I mean, that if you're going to order a pitch, that's what you order. You can see he really got all of it.
Kevin Bass, 7th home run of the year. And on 3rd one that he has hit left-handed. So Kevin Bass looking to see if there was a hit-and-run play. Hits it out instead. He put his own hit-and-trot play. 1 ball and no strikes. Line drive, base hit. Guerrero cuts it off. Cruz will hold with the single. And the crowd emphasizing the first syllable, dragging out that Cruz. 3-2 Houston. Remember, the Reds lost. So the Astros could be a half a game out. The Dodgers trying to cut the Reds' lead to 5.5. And the batter is Chuck Jackson. In the Dodger bullpen, Brad Havens, a left-hander, Brian Holton, the right-hander. Jackson aboard on an error in the 2nd inning and grounded into a double play. So he's 0 for 2. 1 out. Ball 1. So Hatcher and Bass have homered. Anderson homered. And it's 3-2 Houston. When the Dodgers bat in the 7th, you'll have Guerrero, Marshall, and Socha. And remember, Guerrero hollering out at Mike Scott. That should be an interesting confrontation. Jose Cruz, 1 for 2. Jackson hitting .227. He has a little 3-game hitting streak. And he bangs it at Sachs, over to Stubbs, double play. So the Astros settle for 2 on the home run by Kevin Bass. It's 3-2 Houston. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
You shake my nerves and you rattle my brain. Too much love drives a man insane. You broke my will, but what a thrill. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire.
Goodbye, folks. Goodbye, 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 goodbye. And Clark has done it again.
Clark sends it a long way to center. It is gone.
Goodness gracious, great balls of fire.
As long as I've known Tom, I need help. He's there. Sure, I'm glad to see you. Stay with you? Figured you wouldn't mind.
And when the last stray's rounded up, you head for the mountains.
Bush.
And the beer that goes down smooth as a mountain stream.
Sure owe you one. How about this in here?
Head for the mountains of Bush.
$500 cash back on the 1988 highly advanced aerodynamic four-door with room for 5. Cash back for a limited time. The 1988 Chevy Corsica. $500 less than the 87 Grand Am. $1,600 less than Accord. It's all the little things that make the 88 Chevy Corsica so exciting, especially the price, from $89.95. In stock now at your Mid-America Chevy dealers.
Celebrate sober this season. It's a class act.
Pitching, Doby hitting, and Joe Garagiola chasing.
I quit.
In fact, one pitch. Can't see.
Couldn't see. Threw a slider. Minoso was the batter. Oh, I had asked for anybody. I asked for volunteers. I said to Norm Miller, I said, you want to catch? Great moment in sports.
A strike to Guerrero. So this should be interesting now. Remember, when Sachs was hitting, Sachs asked the umpire to look at the ball. Guerrero hollered out from the Dodger dugout after Scott held the ball in the air and looked over as if to say, are you satisfied? 0-1. Guerrero is struck out, grounded to short. 1-1.
It's just going to go after him, I believe, Ben. Well, you don't want emotion to get into it now. That's 7th, 8th, and 9th innings.
Those are the leaders, with Gwynn out in front by almost 30.
Whoa. That was a 100-calorie job. I mean, he took a nasty crack. Reynolds really took a crack on that one. Looks like a fastball, and they just foul right back. Looks like the left arm gets it right off the shoulder. Oh, man, that's a 100-calorie bite right there.
So the ex-Razorback having a hang tough.
And did you notice, I can't help but say this, did anybody come out and ask him? Is anybody out there? Huh? That have been Mike Scott? Dick Wagner would have been out there to see him.
1-2. Ground ball to third, backing up for the hop is Jackson, and he's got the arm where he can do that. Watch Chuck Jackson doing what they don't recommend. Letting the ball play you.
Unless you got the arm he's got. Look, he goes back 2.5 steps at least, and then he just guns it over. And I'd say it's a fairly easy out.
So 1 away. 8 in a row retired by Mike Scott since Marshall had the base hit to drive in what was then the go-ahead run. So Guerrero is 0 for 3 and angry about it. Check, strike, 0-1. Mike Scott trying to win his 9th. He has won 4 and lost only once at home. 1-1. Boy, this crowd's full of beans. They've come to have a day in the ballpark, and it's been a great day for them. Ball 2, 2-1. Two balls, 1 strike. Scott has not been on a strikeout tear. He has only 5 strikeouts. More importantly, 2 of the 5 strikeouts, Tim Leary, the pitcher. Fisted foul off first. Glenn Davis coming over, no play.
If you were a young pitcher and you were watching Mike Scott, you'd have to be impressed with the way he's moving the ball around. In and out, in and out. He has not been wild at all. I mean, he hasn't walked anybody, but that's not the yardstick you use. He's around that plate. When he's got 2 strikes, just misses, just catches the corner. He's doing some job out there.
Two and 2 to Marshall. Got him. And the bottom dropped out of that thing it might be around the knees and on the inside part of the plate, and then it just disappeared. What's this?
And he throws it hard, and that's the key. It looks like a fastball and then just drops straight down. There it is. And, brother, if you don't think that thing didn't go down.
So that's a half a dozen strikeouts for the strikeout leader. Strike one.
And you talk about the split finger fastball, and it used to be a forkball when I was playing. I guess Elroy Face had that great answer when they said, what's the difference between the split finger fastball and the, split finger fastball and the forkball? He said, the money.
High drive to center field. It's playable. Hatcher is right there. Puts it away. So that's 10 in a row retired. It remains 3-2 Houston. Another edition of the 7th inning stretch on Glenn Davis of the Houston Astros. The left hand of Brad Havens, the right hand of Brian Holden. They're warming up for two reasons: to back up Leary here in the bottom of the 7th, but also Leary is due up third when the Dodgers hit in the 8th. So it would appear one way or another this will be Tim's last inning. He'll be pitching to Ron Reynolds, the catcher, Mike Scott, and then Billy Hatcher. The Dodgers in one-run games on the road have a dismal record. They have won 1. They have lost 10. And Lasorda could eat his hat over what's been going on. Here's Reynolds. Ron fouled out and single to right. Three runs, 6 hits for the Astros. 2 runs, 3 hits for the Dodgers. Ground ball to Dave Anderson. Plenty of time with Ron Reynolds. 1 away. Mike Scott has struck out and sacrificed. We were talking earlier about the birth of Mike Scott being May the 17th of last year, when things completely turned around on him. How about this? In 26 of his 43 starts, he's gone at least 8 innings.
Well, he hired out, and he's going to give you a full day's work, isn't he?
Wow.
That is amazing.
39 of his 43 starts have been quality starts. Foul ball. In fact, over those 43 starts, only 5 times did he fail to go less than 7 innings. One of those was a disputed grand slam home run by Jack Clark. A roller to Garner. He hadn't had an easy play today. Got him.
Boy, they have really put him to the test. First day as a Dodger in the lineup, and he's really had some tough chances. But he's a scrappy guy. He has to laugh about it himself.
If he was a rookie, it would be a tough assignment. But as a veteran, he's been through it all. Garner expected to be traded. He expected to be traded from Oakland because he had some difference of opinion with Charles Finley. And as he says, when you have a difference of opinion with Charles Finley, you expect to be traded. He did not expect to be traded, and it visibly upset him at the time when he was traded from Pittsburgh to Houston. Billy Hatcher singled, homered, grounded out. 0-1. Hatch hitting .317. In the 8th, the Dodgers will have Franklin Stubbs, Phil Garner, and apparently a hitter for Tim Leary. See Socia gesturing to Leary. Get that arm up.
Get it up.
A sign of fatigue, I think.
Yeah, he drops it. Sometimes when they drop their arm like that, drop your arm or open up your shoulder a little bit, your front shoulder a bit too soon. Fiddle with the rosin bag, shake off a lot of signs, all little tip-offs.
And that's hit to right. Marshall coming up makes the catch. So Leary does well. He goes a strong 7, but he's a buck short. And at the end of 7, Houston 3 and the Dodgers 2.
Brute. There's a woman who loves what he smells like. Because there's something about Brute that's nice to be close to. And nobody knows that better than a woman.
Hello? Honey, I was just thinking about you.
Brute cologne, deodorant, and everything else. Brute, it smells like a man.
We're going to the 8th inning, 3-2 Houston. Franklin Stubbs, Phil Garner, and we'll see about a hitter for Tim Leary. In the Dodger dugout, certainly 2 eligible candidates, both swinging a bat. Ken Landreau and Ralph Bryant are at the far end of the dugout. The biggest dugouts in baseball are here in the Astrodome. There they are. Landreau on the right. Bryant on the left. 0-1. 1-1 to Franklin Stubbs. It could be the crowd would be a story today. The attendance record for a single game, 50,908. 20 years ago against the Dodgers. So we'll see what they have today. Up and in. He won't let Stubbs extend those arms. He just crowded him. 1-2. A masterful bit of pitching on those pitches.
It'll be interesting now when he's ahead of him. Is he going to continue with that fastball and get it up and in, or will he go to that split finger and let that bottom fall out?
And he just burned him out of there. He threw it in a perfect spot. If you were a scout and you wanted to know about a blind spot on Franklin Stubbs, that was it. And that's 7 strikeouts for Mike Scott.
Tell you, Vin, not only on Franklin Stubbs, you throw that pitch where he throws it to most hitters and you're going to get him. He just swung under that pitch. That's the high tight pitch. That's the classic.
And they're hanging K's in Houston with Phil Garner. 4-1. On deck, Kenny Landreau to bat for Leary. Garner hit to the hole and Craig Reynolds threw him out, and then he grounded to third in the 5th inning. And the chant begins, beat L.A. It would be interesting if Garner asked the umpire to look at the ball. That would really do it. Huh? Right? Wait a minute.
That's right. That would really say, hey, I know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. Right.
I thought that ball was outside. That wasn't a strike.
Garner looks about 10 years younger since he shaved off a mustache. He had one of those Fu Manchu jobs. It made him look about 60. 1-2. Well, welcome to the club, Phil. You join a long, illustrious list of National Leaguers who've been struck out by Mike Scott. Since you've been a teammate of his for the last few years, you didn't know what it was like, but now you do.
It was not a strike either. Up and away out of the strike zone, but with 2 strikes, you can't be that choosy.
And they hang number 8. Here now is Landreau batting for Leary. A 2-run home run by Kevin Bass turned the tables around on Tim Leary. Otherwise, he pitched very well. He did more than hold his own. 2-0. Kenny Landreau has not been much of a pinch hitter throughout his career, but that is his role with the Dodgers now. And he is still struggling. For Mike Scott, he's trying to strike out the side for the first time today and the 8th time this year. Remember, he did it 25 times last year. 3-0. On deck, Dave Anderson. Landreau has 2 home runs. Mention that in case you were thinking about a green light 3-0. So a 2-out walk. And that for Mike Scott is the first walk. So his ratio for the year, 4 strikeouts for every walk. Today he is 8-1. 8 strikeouts, 1 walk.
This is one of those ballparks. Keep that ball in the ballpark, and you got a chance to get them. There's no defense against the base on balls, and Scott really proves that.
Landreau is not that much of a threat to steal. He has 1 stolen base. Anderson is 1 for 3, the home run. Strike. Both Landreau and Anderson checking with a Malfitano. Kenny is 1 for 2 in stolen bases. Remember, the opposition has a perfect record in stolen bases against Mike Scott, 14 out of 14. So even though Landreau does not have many, against Scott, he could be a threat. There he goes. The pitch is high. The throw is even higher. So that's the one time you'd expect Landreau might go against Mike Scott. So the Dodgers are 2 for 2, and the opposition is 15 for 15.
And again, he gets a good ball. He didn't get into that throw as well as he did the last one. The throw was high, but he had a good ball to handle. And I'd have to blame, I'd say 50-50 that time, Ben. The release again was slow, but Reynolds did not make a good throw.
Well, the tying run is at second base with 2 out. 1-1 to Anderson.
Well, he sailed that fastball, didn't he?
I'll tell you, if you're a hitter and you know you're against a guy who struck out 300 last year, strikes out the side 25 times, leading the league this year in strikeouts, if you get 2 strikes on you, it must take half your swing away.
Well, right now, he can go either way. He can go fastball or split finger. It's up to him. He's got both working.
And he throws it to the backstop. And down to third goes Landreau.
He was going to try to throw that high and in and just overthrew it to the point that it's a wild pitch.
That's the 3rd wild pitch that Mike Scott has uncorked this year. 3. And that thing really took off.
You could see he didn't really bend into it. He was straight back when he threw it, and it went exactly where he was aiming.
So deuce is wild on Anderson. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. The tying run is 90 feet away in the 8th inning. 3-2 Houston. Got him looking. Nine strikeouts for Mike Scott. And it is 3-2 Houston at the end of 7.5. Great Scott.
And too, it revived my spirit. It gave me something to hope for. It gave me new hope in life.
You're one of the great personalities of rock and roll. What were you like as a little child?
Devilish, mischievous, terrible. I was always doing something off the wall and in the hall. Because by me being so outspoken at that time, I didn't go by right anyway. You know, I wanted to be like everybody else. And so I started playing the piano.
Sunday.
Well, it's Mike Scott against the world, and so far Scott's leading.
I tell you, he's got a good fastball going, the good split finger, and the threat of scuffing the ball.
Wait a minute. See my fist?
Yeah.
Make believe it's a fastball.
Okay.
He didn't blink.
Didn't blink.
I believe you now.
I'm telling you, I didn't blink.
You're
you guys
awesome.
wouldn't believe me.
You're awesome.
It's too much.
Let's find out about the real players.
Okay.
A drive to straightaway center to John Shelby. 1 away as Bill Dorn didn't waste any time against Brian Holton. Brian Holton, 2-1 in his 23rd game. He has 2 saves. So Tim Leary pitched very well, 7 innings, allowing just 3 runs and 6 hits. Struck out 4, but 2 home runs did him in. Billy Hatcher in the 3rd and Kevin Bass with a man aboard in the 6th. Craig Reynolds flied to right, lined out to left, and popped up. When the Dodgers bat in the 9th inning, they will have Steve Sachs, John Shelby, and Pedro Guerrero. And if anybody gets on, Mike Marshall. So don't go wandering off. Check swing foul. To repeat for latecomers, Atlanta defeated Cincinnati 8-6. The winner of this game picks up a game in the standings, and particularly of interest to Houston, they would be a half a game out of first place. If the Dodgers win, they would be 5.5 out. So Lanier has just about everything going for him. In fact, he says the only real soft area on his ball club, middle relief. Chopper up along first base. Stubbs will meet it head on. And Reynolds tried to get under the tag, but he just got the top of his helmet. That's pretty good play.
That was a great play by Reynolds, because it looked like Franklin was going to take for granted that he was just going to run into him and be tagged out. And he just did get him. I mean, it was close. It wasn't the most graceful way to get in there, but he about got in the back door.
Yep. Franklin will learn not to trust base runners coming down the line. There's no such thing as playing give up. And here's Glenn Davis. Take another look.
He just grazed him.
Trying to get under a bridge, and the aerial just ticked it. 2 down in the 8th inning, 3-2 Houston. The Astros trying to beat the Dodgers for the 9th time in 13 meetings. The Astros have been playing pretty well anyway. They've won 4 of the last 6. The Dodgers have been going the other way. They've lost 7 of their last 9.
Davis didn't like that pitch at all. He thought it stayed inside. It was a good shot we had from behind home plate. You can see that it was a curveball, kind we used to call a drop as a kid, but Davis thought it stayed inside.
Drive to right, and Marshall was overshifted. He's not going to get there. It will bounce up and go over the wall. Ground rule double for Glenn Davis.
Ben, that's what we talk about. If you're going to stack the defense a certain way, it's up to the pitcher to make them hit that way. You can't have them way over in right center field, because the eye in the sky and the whatever is not going to help you. And Socia is going to be out there talking to him to find out exactly what's going on here. You got to make sure that if you're going to stack them a certain way, they got to hit that way.
Of course, it's tough to play Glenn Davis to pull and then come into an area where he can pull. Bill Russell with the walkie-talkie, taking the advice of Don McMahon upstairs. But instead of coming in, he went away, and Davis went with it. So here's Kevin Bass, and he's the difference in the game. Lined out to right, hit back to the box, and with 1 out, and Davis aboard, hit a 2-run home run against Tim Leary. No strikes. High chopper to Sachs, playing that cautiously so it doesn't kangaroo over his head. And the inning is over. They leave Davis at second base, and at the end of 8, Houston 3 and the Dodgers 2.
Get up and go. The preceding was furnished by Major League Baseball.
Steve Sachs, John Shelby, and Pedro Guerrero in the 9th inning, 3-2 Houston. And the count 1 ball and 1 strike. Mike Scott has walked 1, struck out 9. He has struck out the side in the 8th inning. He has allowed just 3 hits, 2 runs.
That was his 100th pitch right there, Vin.
Little pop fly. He was jammed to Bill Dorn. 1 out in the 9th. And the batter will be John Shelby.
You talk about a guy in control. He's made 101 pitches. I'd have to call that a strike, so it would be 70 strikes. He's got 9 strikeouts, 1 base on balls, 18 of 28 first pitch strikes.
Imagine the mood on the Dodger ball club. Oral Hershiser struck out 14 last night, and they lost, and then had to come to the park today to look at Scott. Here's Shelby. Jeb Hamilton on the right, Oral Hershiser with his arms draped over the railing. A career high 14 Ks last night, and all it did was get him his 7th loss. 0-1. Fouled away, so he has John Shelby by the neck now. 0-2. The last Dodger hit was Mike Marshall, who singled in the 4th inning. 14 in a row, and there's Guerrero. The only thing to break it was the walk to Landro. That was mean. Bottom dropped out of that thing just to remind you what he can do.
Well, that's the one thing Roger Craig, who worked with Mike Scott, says that when he gets 2 strikes on you, he throws it hard. That was a hard split finger.
1-2. By the way, if the Astro rotation remains the same, it would appear that Mike Scott's last start before the All-Star game would be Friday night here against the New York Mets. And we'll be right here to send it to you. Prime time Friday the 9th. Then he'd have 3 days rest for the All-Star game. Fouled away again.
And then we'll do the All-Star game.
So we've got the Astros and the Mets Friday night the 9th, Saturday the 10th, and then the All-Star game in Oakland.
And be sure to vote. I tell you, there are some guys that are not getting votes that deserve it. I mean, there's a list of them.
Always the way. 2-2 to Shelby. And he drives it to center, but Hatcher has plenty of room. So the Dodgers are down to their last out. And what had been a little bit of a confrontation, long distance, between Guerrero and Scott back in the 6th inning. Now, fittingly, they'll eyeball each other with the game on the line.
And young Reynolds went out to talk to Scott, and Scott immediately told him, I know what I'm doing, because you know what Guerrero's thinking. He's got to try to tie it up with one swing of the bat. So it's really a battle here, strength against strength.
Guerrero 2 ground balls, and he struck out 0 for 3. Ball 1. On deck, Mike Marshall. Guerrero was on a home run tear for a while. Then he went almost 3 weeks between home runs. He has 15. 1 ball, no strikes.
He's overthrown it. Wow, did he overthrow that one? He knows it. 2-0. Bill Doran hollering, and you saw Scott nod his head yes, as if to say, I know. Guerrero batting .331. And he popped it up. And it will be Doran, who just a moment ago had hollered encouragement. And that's it. Greg Scott. He is 9-3, 3-0 against the Dodgers, 10-6 lifetime. And Pedro Guerrero is 0 for 4. We'll be back with more of the Mike Scott Houston Astros story. The Astros are a half a game behind Cincinnati. More after this.